You see, actually, there are these covert references in the Renaissance and, I don't know, the cave paintings in France, which is something you always want to do with fantasy. You know, you postulate some sort of weird supernatural thing going on. You want, in order to trick the reader, you want to be able to say, but don't take my word for it. Look in this obscure Wordsworth sonnet. Look at that, Da Vinci painting, for example. You see there are clues to this all the way back, and you hope the reader goes, golly, yeah, I guess this is true. In fact, that, of course, is sort of what Dan Brown was doing, speaking of Da Vinci. Though he didn't do it thoroughly enough, because you can blow up his secret history with 5 minutes and a Britannica encyclopedia. And no, you're supposed to make it hold up through a couple of levels of research. You ideally do want the reader to go away thinking, I bet that's mostly true.
Yeah, but you can't diagram this sentence.
Well, it's all wrong about
go on, yeah, church. Well, speaking, okay, the two most famous conservative Catholic fantasy writers today are
I'm very pleased that you kept the company.
It's very good company, but you haven't written very much directly about what could be considered a theology of fiction until this new novella, which is not out yet, is it? Or is it?
It's not the
down among.
Oh, that one.
Down and out in Purgatory.
Well, it isn't. It isn't.
Is it in the book room? Yeah. Oh, there it is. Okay.
Oh yeah.
This doesn't have any history, special history in it at all. It's a guy. It's basically about a guy who's so angry at his enemy that when he finds out his enemy is dead, he wants to die so he can go kill him again in Purgatory.
Yeah.
And Purgatory is this noir film set with a guy named Hubcap Pete who drives around in a convertible. I mean, what kind of purgatory is that?
Well, it isn't the Orthodox Catholic. I mean, I'm Catholic, but my stories don't have to be Orthodox. I kind of ripped it off. Again, I trust this goes no further, but I kind of ripped it off from a C.S. Lewis book called The Great Divorce.
Oh, yeah.
Great book, yeah. In which these people in this gray, nondescript, unattractive town can take a bus to heaven. Though they generally choose not to stay because the grass doesn't bend under their feet and the light shines right through them. And they generally choose to take the bus back to Purgatory. And he does it very vividly. I mean, you see the bus, you see the gray town, and so when I was thinking of a sort of intermediary style, I mean, I don't want to do heaven or hell, but intermediary style afterlife, I did kind of think of Lewis's. Though he didn't have cars in his.
No, he didn't have cars. Yeah, people are sliding off a dome, too. It's like the inverse of Dante's Purgatory. Instead of climbing up a mountain, they're sort of descending.
That's just true, yeah. And it's spinning, so they fly off the edges.
Well, we are down to about 17 minutes or less, probably 12 minutes. So do you think you should ask people to join us in the conversation?
Do shout loud. I abused rock music in my youth. But it doesn't matter. Nobody's. Oh, go ahead.
What about the Keystone Landman inspired Stress Purgatory?
What about what?
The Keystone Landman.
Oh, yeah. As a matter of fact, that was the inception of that book. I read that when Keats died, or when Shelley died, he didn't know how to swim. He got in his boat, said, I'm going to go out for a sail in the harbor. And everybody, all these ships are rushing in under this giant black cloud. And they're going, get back. Tie it down, there's a big storm coming. So Shelley said, no, we're going on out. And of course, his ship was wrecked and he drowned. And immediately you think, he meant to. What was he up to really? And then when his body was found, his face and hands had been eaten away by fish. I bet. And in his pocket was a copy of Shelley's poems, Keats's poems, folded open to the poem Lamia. And well, duh. Like, how much help do I need? And of course, a Lamia is this very sexually predatory female vampire. And so I thought, well, the thing practically writes itself. Look at this. So yeah, that fact, the fact that that book was found folded open to that poem in his pocket, I just thought, yeah, go. And then, of course, I read very extensively biographies of Shelley and Keats and Byron and Trelawney and everybody else with that paranoid squint, you know, where are the supernatural clues? And if you have that attitude, especially with those guys, I mean, the night they spent with Mary Shelley thinking up Frankenstein, they really helped out a lot. But yeah, that was it. That is the sort of thing that makes you think, oh, there's a book here.
What was there a similar genesis for Hide Me Among the Graves? Because the portrait of Christina Rossetti is, I mean, nobody, by and large, I don't think you very often can call a feminist writer, but Christina is the strongest character in that book. And Maria is Maria Rossetti is somebody we barely know anything about.
True. Yeah, the inception for that book was, again, I was just idly reading for fun, and I read that when Dante Gabriel Rossetti's wife died, killed herself, he was stricken with grief, validly, and at her funeral, her body is in the casket, and he's all weeping, and he seized his notebook full of all his poetry manuscripts and laid them in the coffin. And his friends are going, hey, Dante, come on, man, you don't want to do that. And he says, no, let that part of me go with her. And they sealed the coffin up and they buried her. And a year later, a publisher said, you know, if you had a collection of poetry, we could do a book. And he said, give me a couple days. And he dug her up. You can still see the notebook still exists. I know, it's somewhere in the British Museum. But my first thought, obviously, was, why did he really dig her up? He either had to get something else out, and the poetry was an excuse, or he had to put something else in and rebury her. I mean, that's just, anybody figured that out. I'm surprised the biographies don't posit that. And so then I read extensively on all of them and found more of these. For example, this one really wrote itself. Trelawney, this eccentric, semi-pirate literary figure. When Shelley was burned, Trelawney leaned into the flames and saved Shelley's jawbone for a souvenir. Not a keychain, you know. And later, William Rossetti was unable to have children who would live more than a month. And so Trelawney gave William Shelley's jawbone, and immediately all the Rossetti kids throw it. And I mean, I didn't make any of this up. You know, you just think, well, this must be true.
And the jawbone does show up in this novella.
That's right.
And the other connection, which I think is fascinating, because it's one of those things where, as a literature student, I would have known this if I'd ever thought about it. But obviously, Mary Shelley and Byron and Keats are figures in the earlier part of the 19th century. But the other person there in the 1860s was John Polidori. And then we read Hide Me Among the Graves, and we remember that John Polidori was Rossetti's uncle.
Yeah.
And so there was a connection. And then so Christina sort of messes up the family by calling Polidori's attention.
You're not supposed to open the door to those things.
Don't open the door to
Don't let your push the sandwich out through the mail slot, but don't open the door.
Somebody back here had a problem. Yes.
I was very struck by your discussing your dislike for smirking irony in fiction, because one of the things that's always struck me about your books is that on sort of pull the camera back a little, and I feel like there's a lot of irony in the story, but then you go in paragraph by paragraph, and it has that intense deadpan. And I'm wondering how much you were thinking of it as funny when you were putting it together.
Can you paraphrase that?
How much do you think of your narratives as being ironic when you pull back a little bit? How much of them are funny? And the first thing that comes to my mind is On Stranger Tides, which I thought was funny.
Yeah, actually, it's a good point, because, especially when you say pull back a bit. Because when I'm putting it together, there probably is a sort of a semi-whimsical, let's have some fun with this, let's see how far out of true we can skew it. Yeah, when putting it together, you think, let's have some fun with this, let's jerk people around. But then when you're writing it, you got to be taking it completely seriously. I remember a short story Blaylock and I collaborated on, which started with, I noticed that guys who come out of Norm's coffee shop in the morning, always they're working a toothpick in their mouth.
Yeah.
They're kind of looking around, you know. And what the hell? Look at that guy. What is he thinking? And so we said, well, let's have a story about where a guy comes out of Norm's and he's got the toothpick and he's real fat, and a car comes by and the mirror post yanks his pants right off. Serve him right. And so then we wrote a story in which that happened, but in the terms of the story, it was not funny at all. You're very sympathetic. I hope you're very sympathetic with the guy who, because it's horrible having your pants ripped off in the parking lot. So yeah, I think maybe, now that you mention it, I think, yeah, there is some sort of irony in those other factors when I'm putting the story together. But not when I'm dealing with
The tone is not an ironic tone.
Yeah, yeah. I don't want at all to give the reader any excuse to think, oh, Powers is having some fun here. I don't want you to be aware of Powers at all when you're reading it.
Well, you were having fun with William Ashbless. You had to be having fun with William Ashbless.
I think if you just coldly read the book, you would not know he was fun Blaylock and Ariadne. And later when I quote from him and things, there's no pointing hands in the margins saying Powers is kidding here.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Well, we had another something. Yeah, yes.
Declare.
Declare.
What gave you the idea for that?
I was reading a book about Kim Philby, and the introduction was by John le Carre. And le Carre said, there's so many things we don't know about Philby. Who was his real handler? When was he recruited? He was, of course, working in British espionage, and he turned out to have been working for Moscow ever since he was a teenager. And so I started thinking, well, I wonder why, good questions, le Carre, I wonder why so little is known about Philby. And I read the book, and there were details like Philby was obsessed with Mount Ararat. Took pictures of it from all sides, even though for one side you had to be in Soviet territory to take a picture. And his father was careful never to have young kids baptized. Though they did get some water from the Jordan River and sent it to the British Museum to be tested for supernatural properties. How do you test that? You pour it on a dead mouse and see if it comes back to life. And Philby always had a sort of uneasy fascination with Catholicism. He hated it, but he always was asking about it. And there were a number of things like that, and I just thought, okay, that's enough. There's stuff going on there. His father, who was sort of a semi-Lawrence of Arabia figure, when he was a kid, the babysitter took him here, and the parents took him there, and they realized they had duplicates of the same kid. They brought him back together, and then he was one kid again. Okay. We can do something with that. And so since they were both so closely associated with Arabia and the early King Saud, early Saudi Empire, The obvious research was the 1001 Nights, and you got the wind under your wings at that point.
I think, okay, one more. We're down to about 1.5 minutes.
You said that you find all of these interesting things in research that you then use to build stories on. Presumably you have found things you haven't yet written stories about, and is someone know where these notes are?
The lesson is somebody know where these notes are.
Oh.
They're the grade of his first flight.
Yeah, there are things where you think, something could be made of that one day. Also, there's things that should have been in a book, but they wouldn't fit. In one of my books, it involved Einstein in Pasadena, California in 1933, and he left Pasadena within hours. He just barely cleared it of the great 1933 earthquake, which obviously not a coincidence. And Michelson, of Michelson-Morley experiment, had built an interferometer to measure variations in the speed of light. In Newport Beach, it was about a mile long, and it was aimed exactly. I mean, if you gave this to a geologist, he would draw a line exactly, leading to the precise epicenter of the 1933 quake. And I think, okay, well, how can you not use that? Michelson's interferometer obviously provoked, it could have been a plain old interferometer. He disguised it as an interferometer, but it obviously provoked the 1933 earthquake. And there was just no way to fit it in the book. And that just was orphaned. I still think it's kind of suspicious.
What's even more suspicious is you've just been told to stop. Because you were about to reveal something. Thank you all.
I'm going into town for dinner.